Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight for today's crowd conversation. I'm Gretchen Worth, and I direct the Susan Christopherson Center for Community Planning, which supports New York State communities who are working toward a more equitable, climate-resilient built environment. And the Christopherson Center is one of the founding partners of CROWD, which stands for Circularity, Reuse, and Zero Waste Development. And we organize the crowd conversations. And today's crowd conversation features a student-led initiative that recently won the award for Best Student Project by the American Planning Association Upstate Chapter. This project is an ongoing collaboration between Cornell University students and high school students in Binghamton, New York, to advance circularity in the region. So you'll be hearing more from the students along with Associate Professor Jenny Minner, who is the advisor for the project and directs the Just Places Lab. This conversation will be moderated by Professor Sophie Oldfield, the chair of Cornell's Department of City and Regional Planning. And Sophie has been a strong supporter of research related to circularity and sustainabilities, research by students, by faculty, by other researchers in the Just Places Lab, the Circular Construction Lab at Cornell University, the Christopherson Center, and CROWD generally. So Sophie, thanks for being here. Before we get started, we will just have a couple of housekeeping details. The conversation we will keep to an hour, including the Q&A. So type your questions into the chat as we go along, and we'll jump right to those at the end of the presentation. And please keep yourselves muted so that everybody can hear the speakers. And we have some video as well throughout the presentation. If you haven't signed up already, we have one more crowd conversation before we break for the summer. So consider registering for Monday, June 2nd at 5 p.m. when Christina O'Malley from Historic Ithaca will be sharing how preservation advocacy is contributing to circular construction economy efforts in Central New York. And you can register for that on the CROWD website. We have people joining us tonight from across New York State and beyond, but I'm based in Ithaca, so I would like to acknowledge that Ithaca is on the traditional homelands of the Guy Cahono, the Cayuga Nation. The Guy Cahono are members of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, an alliance of 6 sovereign nations with a historic and contemporary presence on this land. The Confederacy precedes the establishment of Ithaca, New York State, and the United States of America. We acknowledge the painful history of Guy Cahono dispossession and honor the ongoing connection of Guy Cahono people, past and present, to these lands and waters. So thank you everybody again for joining us tonight, and I will hand it over to Sophie to get us started.
Great. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Jenny. It's really wonderful to be here. I am always deeply appreciative of crowd initiatives, of the Christopherson Center's energy and what they contribute to Ithaca and to the surrounding area, but also to our department, and particularly to Jenny Minner, my colleague. And I think this group of students, I'm very excited to listen, and I'm so glad at this late stage of the semester you can share this work. I've been from a few steps away and from my office been so impressed with the energy and the initiative that's built this collaboration through Jenny, through Najee Abdul Jalil, through Alicia Starr, undergrads who helped start this collaboration with Binghamton, and this work that Jenny has carried on with the present students. It's really a couple of years of incredibly meaningful work that substantively is so important about deconstruction, about environmental justice, about how we think the future. But for me, it's also for us at the university and at Cornell, really engaging so carefully with how do we collaborate? How do we work beyond the university in the ways that we have to, that we must? How do we work with communities? How do we work with young people? And for me, these are all the things which are helping us create a next generation of thinkers and doers. And that's so central to this university context, to making sure that we are relevant. So for me, this work is rigorous, it's passionate, it's collaborative, it's creative, and it's relevant and impactful. And in this moment in the university, this is what we need, but it's also so important for thinking about upstate New York. And that's why we are so pleased in City and Regional Planning that this group of students and Jenny's work with them has been acknowledged with this award. And I'm so looking forward to listen to everybody tonight. So at that stage, let me hand over to Jenny, Minna, a wonderful colleague, an associate professor in our department, the person who's inspiring and driving and coordinating. And this is both big thinking and incredible attention to details and logistics that make everything happen. So Jenny, let me hand it over to you with a very big thanks. Let me let you introduce the students and their projects.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for such a generous introduction. I'm really delighted to be here to introduce and share the work that several cohorts of Cornell students and Binghamton area high school students have worked on. We're going to be sharing a bit about what we've done over the past couple of years, and it's really connected to the work that CROWD does. Working to foster areas of circular economy, how that connects to community development, reuse, preservation. Throughout the presentation, I'll introduce Cornell University students, but first I'd like to acknowledge the amazing high school students who have participated in this program. Hiba Rahman, Samantha Frankilis, Amadou Keeb, Jordan Prince, Inaya Sethi, Miranda Chigma, and Maria Mustafa in this past cohort. And prior to that, Hiba, Maria, Amadou, Nazi Shamid, Ahmed, Monib Khan, Kayan Sethi, and Alana Schiffer, all who participated and brought so much to the program. I'll also introduce August Guba, who I should have mentioned has been a participant as a Binghamton High School student and now as a student leader here at Cornell, a first-year student and director of CR0WD. And you'll also hear from Nikhil Matthew, a first-year MRP student, and Chengyu Wang, Just Places Lab filmmaker and a graduating senior in the MRP program. I'm also hoping that you'll hear from Andrew Bogosian, who is now a deconstruction specialist for Finger Lakes Reuse. He's a graduate of the Cornell Architecture program, although he may have to step away, so I'm not sure how much he'll be able to present, but I hope we'll hear from him. I'd like to acknowledge those on the call who have engaged with this program, including I saw Council Member Nate Hotchkiss. Thanks so much for joining us. And I'd like to, and also Joe Murray, who is a guest speaker and a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon. I'd like to acknowledge all the supports for this program from the Community Partnership Funding Board, the Contribution Projects, Clarence S. Stein Institute for Urban and Landscape Studies, Robinson Appel, Janet McKinley 74 Family Grants, and AAP Community Engagement Grants, and all of the support from the Cornell Department of City and Regional Planning and AAP. So I direct the Just Places Lab. I'm also an associate professor in the Department of City and Regional Planning. And the Just Places Lab is really a collaborative platform that's aimed at supporting just this kind of initiative. We do a variety of things, from work on embodying justice in the built environment to other work with CROWD, and this work with CR0WD and Circular Cities and Research to Action has really been at the core of what we've been working on lately. I want to give you a sense of the origins of this program. Originally, it was called Research for Action, South Central New York. It later became CR0WD. It's through the incredible work of Najee Abdul-Jalil, who is a graduating urban and regional studies student, and Alicia Starr Robbins. They were researchers in the Just Places Lab. They came with amazing ideas. We incubated them through conversations. and work with other researchers in the lab, and they generated a student organization that aims to highlight and solve ongoing problems in underserved communities, that seeks to develop youth participants' community engagement experiences, research skills, comfort with speaking, and facilitate youth-led research to action projects. Here's some photos of the incubation phase, including Najee and Alicia, raising multiple grants here at Cornell to support this research. It really came out of Najee's leadership, and he came to Cornell having experience from Nevada in a Research for Change project that was faculty led. And I'm just going to show a few clips of a video that speaks to the origins of this program.
Cornell University Research to Action Youth, or CR0WD, is a research group I put together with other students at AAP in the Urban and Regional Studies program, architecture students, and even grad students. It was incubated at Associate Professor Jennifer Minner's Just Places lab. And our main goal was to research construction waste in South Central New York areas such as Binghamton, Johnson City, in collaboration with high school students, share that data that we collect on construction waste. So CR0WD does have an education aspect of it for the high school students. So we share, students at Cornell get to share skills such as drone photography, 3D modeling, and public speaking.
Do you know the voice recording app on a phone?
I'm going to pause it right there. The video was posted online, so you can watch the rest of it. But I think more importantly, we have August Guba here, who can speak to CR0WD and the what's become the Circular Cities projects.
Yeah. So as Dr. Minna mentioned, I was a youth participant back in 2023, and I'm now a student here at Cornell University in urban and regional planning. But you know, CR0WD's goals, as Najee incubated the program, was to have high school participants gain experience in a multitude of different ways, which you can see on the left side of your screen there. And so CR0WD's student experience has been focused into these kind of 4 sectors, which is research, community engagement, sustainability knowledge, and leadership development. And each form of these kind of, experiential, learning culminates into different skills and perks that co-researchers can take away from this program, such as college prep, getting paid, which is nice to have a stipend from this kind of research, and impactful community relations, whether that be with city leaders, with other high school students, or just other community members as well. Next slide, please. And so to give a little bit of context about where we CR0WD is focused, our work so far has been centered in Binghamton, New York, which is in the upstate region, and was in the late 19th and early 20th centuries was a very industrialist town, including Union, Endicott, and Vestal, 2 adjacent cities, but with that. In the 1990s, the area, focused or experienced a sharp kind of decline as some of the major companies of the industrial left that area. And so with that, the community increased, but buildings from the industrial era have been left vacant and forgotten, which brings us to, where we focused the first year of our CR0WD, which was the Masonic Temple. The Masonic Temple provides, notion for the opportunities for reuse and reciprocity within Binghamton's community, and it stands as our case study for 2023, the CR0WD's cohort for 2023. So jumping into our site visit a little bit, we were able to use photogrammetry and LiDAR scanning tools that students, along with the help of researchers from the Just Places lab, such as Dinkin Hugh, who gave a demonstration on drone mapping, to advance and develop their own research skills. Additionally, some of the students were able to have a tour of the interior of the building through the Binghamton's Historic Preservation Office. So looking into the ScanR analysis a little bit more deeply, the workshop took these photogrammetry scans and interpreted it into a lesson on ScanR, which analyzes the photogrammetry and LiDAR scans to produce an embodied carbon analysis and material inventorying to enable design-based approaches to figuring out how we can develop circularity and introduce a more sustainable process through that. And so looking at these kind of results, that led to an analysis session where we discussed the impacts and different constructions and design methods and what they have on total embodied carbon. And ScanR does this through embodied carbon tools such as tonnage calculations and as well as producing salvageable material schedules. And so what we can see from the specific case study of the Masonic Temple is that with the demolition, with the building of the Masonic Temple, it was around that the embodied carbon is up to 20,000 tons of CO2. And so we discussed in this kind of ways that we could communicate what is 20,000 tons of CO2 more effectively, and what does that mean when a building has this level of embodied carbon. And so we could see this through the amount of acreage that it would take of forest to sequester this amount of embodied carbon, which would equate to 21,000 acres of forest or 16,000 football fields. Through that, we were able to have a discussion using these kind of developments, and we opened it up to uses of what the Masonic Temple could be. This was split into two different approaches. One where the materials of the building were used in the removal and the deconstruction, and the second approach was where the Masonic Temple could be adaptively reused in its current state. We thought about how to influence change in the community as CR0WD decided to build relationships and communicate our message through local stakeholders such as Binghamton and Broome County legislators. So with this discussion, we were able to have our ideas flowing and prospective audience to present these different uses of the Masonic Temple into its accurate parts. And the co-researchers produced a series of collages rather, which demonstrates the different reuse cases for the Masonic Temple. Within this, some of the imagined futures for the Masonic Temple were compiled into a mailable pamphlet, which shares the hard metrics, imagined futures, and CR0WD's approach to supporting community innovation and circular advancement. The design scenarios were cross-section in the community impacts, but also could be interpreted into four broad categories as well: community, repair and recreation, infrastructure, and support. Some of these imagined futures, specifically zoning into what were shown through the zine, were in fact that they highlighted the issues that exist in Binghamton and demonstrated the resources for improving communities that are right in front of us. So as we can see, Amadou and Keon took the infrastructure approach, recognizing that if steel and bricks could be reused, they could go toward constructing bridges to connect two opposing sides of the city, currently not connected. Another co-researcher, Maria, suggested that converting the Masonic Temple into a career training center, which would be ideal because high school students preparing for the workforce, as the Binghamton High School is only about 200 feet away from this building. And I did one as well, as I was a participant, and I took the route of some repair and recreation. And I wanted to showcase the ability for community building through the steel to be used as skate park features and a part of the Masonic Temple could even be used to be a space dedicated to hold them. And finally, with that, we took distribution stakeholder engagement The pamphlet is made to be mailed to stakeholders in a kind of action to draw attention to the Masonic Temple as it's currently vacant and most often kind of forgotten, and to save it from the landfill as well as its materials. On the arrival of this mailable pamphlet, it reads to recipients, recipients, it reads the information that it carries through the story, and it can be repurposed, the pamphlet, into a model of the Masonic Temple after reading it, as you can see Andrew's hands here folding it up nicely. I'm going to pass it back off to Jenny to talk about our year 2 and our engagement with the class.
Super. Thank you so much, August, and fantastic work putting together the workshop, Andrew. I just think that was a wonderful sort of culmination of the first year, and we took that into the second year. It was really inspiration for Circular Cities and Research to Action, which is a special topics class that brought together Cornell undergraduate and graduate students to work alongside the student organization. And what I want to do is play a video and then hear from a couple of the graduate students from that class.
What we did at the first workshop or the second workshop, which was just kind of gaining information about some circularity possibilities, just kind of learning what circularity is and learning what it means to the community, as in just maybe deconstruction versus demolition, like the systematic taking apart of buildings rather than just kind of throwing everything into a landfill, to help boost the economy and also community engagement, involvement. It's personal, it's community-based, it's real interviews with community members, high school students that live and breathe and see Binghamton every single day. So it comes from a real first-person perspective.
I think the Masonic Temple represents the fact that the amount of beauty within the decay of the city, essentially. I feel like Binghamton, when you go down, especially if you go to Binghamton's downtown, there's such beauty within our environment, regardless of whether you're even just going to a cafe or you're looking at actual housing. But at the same time, as you're downtown, you can also see a contrast with homeless people who are just wandering and no one's essentially helping them. Housing that's decaying, which is housing actual residents rather than college students. The temple, with how beautiful it is, if you just look at it, like Greek columns, etc., but there's graffiti on it and it's just been decaying for years. There's so much lost potential or untapped into potential within our city, and how if there's just funding put in, if there's investment put in, our city, Binghamton, can be one of the most beautiful in the country.
The Binghamton area, and that there's like rich history and culture that could be like kind of shared, but it's not being used very well. And I guess that kind of supports the argument that maybe like we should be preserving these buildings as opposed to letting them kind of like deteriorate.
Idea that we've had for this building, considering that just down the street, if you go that way, there's Binghamton High School, which is of course our city's high school. I think with the high school, as a student there, I can personally see the consequences that come from the negative connotations that our building has. There's a lot of decay in our area. With the Masonic Temple, the best thing that it could become is a recreation center. It would be a way of preserving this building and giving it use. And second of all, it could help our community. So the fact that this could go towards students here, I feel that would be an amazing use. And it would help motivate our students to think, I have so much potential, my city has so much potential. And I feel like that really fosters the spirit needed to help grow our building or grow our city and grow the residents that live here.
Maybe it could be like some sort of like place for people who don't have homes.
Recreational centers where you can come with your family, and I feel like that'll be a good thing to kind of promote like health and like a better lifestyle in Binghamton.
That high school are the next generation and they're coming from our city. So we should want our students to reflect to the world, hey, I come from Binghamton and look at what my potential is. And I feel like that should really be our priority.
If we were able to like reuse some of these, like the Masonic Temple, reuse it and repurpose it, it would show like how the neighborhood will start to look more better and not like none of the students will just try and hang around here. Like the house right across from Binghamton High School, a lot of students just use it as like an area to chill, but if we could repurpose it, maybe they could actually be in a functioning area.
What are the current usage you see for this red building over here?
Before the fence was put up, I saw the usage of students smoking over there and just using it as like an area to hang out. Or sometimes I did see fights over there, but ever since they put up the fence, nobody has really bothered the building, and it's just been like sitting there for as long as I could remember.
I think we can definitely use like deconstruction of the building to reuse the columns or the wood or like the windows. You know, not all of them are smashed. And I think, you know, we could use it for like renovating, you know, the sort of housing in the area. Eventually it's going to need to have some like renovation, so you can like use the windows for that. Or like you could use like the columns, even if you wanted to do some type of like memorial or something of the area, or if there's a museum.
And I know that there is like many programs at BOCES that they could reuse this material for, and it could help benefit them for the class and their understanding with deconstruction.
I think it would definitely be a good use of like vacant lots and like just areas that aren't being used in Binghamton as like gardens, or just places for community to come together and kind of celebrate culture, kind of promote like diversity in Binghamton.
I think the first thing that we could do is, of course, considering how we can make those buildings effectively used by the community, not just necessarily in a way that they're made into, I guess, housing per se, even though of course if it's housing that's going towards residents, that works just as well because it's serving our community. But I think if we could turn them into community centers, or at least one of them into a community center, especially the red building, which is right across from Binghamton High School, that would be a huge step towards making it so that Binghamton is serving people who live in Binghamton, permanent residents whose lives are in Binghamton. Same thing goes for the Masonic Temple. If one of them becomes a recreation center, maybe the other could have another purpose, but regardless, making sure that those buildings are going towards Binghamton residents, people who live here, whose lives are here.
One of CR0WD's values are sustainability and circularity. They are at the heart of everything that we do. We are passionate about finding ways to reduce waste, reuse resources, and make a real difference for the environment. But we know that meaningful change doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in collaboration. That is why we felt it was so important to connect with our elected officials. Elected officials play a crucial role not only in shaping policies, but driving change on a larger scale. By reaching out, we shared our perspective, gained valuable insights, and worked together towards shared goals. It is the bigger picture. In the end, real progress comes from working together. Businesses, leaders, and communities united for a more sustainable future.
Okay. So I'm hoping now that we can hear from the filmmaker, Cheng-Yu Wang, who's representing the whole media team that put together that short video highlighting the work that the high school students were doing and really expressing the ambitions of CR0WD and the high school students in the program.
Hi guys, I'm Cheng-Yu Wang, and I'm someone who created the film with the help of all our media team. And my responsibility, I think, is I trying to record our journey with the high school students. And this film is created to document our process of how we doing the CR0WD project, and how we do that step by step, how we lead the high school students to do research in their own city, in their own community, and how we collect data, and how we do site visits, how we do field work. So I'm trying to record the whole process of what we have been doing. And also another purpose of this video is that we're trying to let the high school students to reflect what they can do to make a difference to their living environment, to make some positive changes to the Binghamton city. So through the whole film, first the little film was led by brief introduction by August. August was saying that the purpose of this Kurt White project. Then the high school students, they express their opinions on some specific sites in Binghamton City. Like those sites, there are some sites they are good, some sites they are bad, but all the sites they are kind of underdeveloped and they have been neglected for a very long time. And those high school students, they think about how to reuse and repurpose those sites which has long been ignored, and they trying to find adaptive reuse ways to kind of reuse those sites and to yeah, just to can be a kind of urban revitalization for the city. And in the end, these films, at the end of these films, we also help the high school students to connect with the Binghamton City Council members, and it's kind of a way like to put our efforts, to put our research into practices. And yeah, so we have the opportunities to talk with the policymakers, and which can create a better future for all of us. And it can be, it's a very positive end. And the Kurt White project still going on. That's the film is talking about. And also the films like can create a blueprint for maybe for a better future and for our next step. It's still going on, and it's still going on, and the Kurt White is still going on. And I think generation by generations, and we were making efforts to it. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'd like to now pass it over to Nikhil Matthew, who's a first year MRP student, to talk a bit more about the youth engagement.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, organizers, for hosting this. And I'm Nikhil. I got involved with this organization through the Circular Cities class, and I worked with Cheng Yu in making, contributing in the production of the video. I just want to share about like my take on this project as being part of this organization. So to begin with, I came into planning because I wanted to be part of meaningful change making and grounded in practice and not just theory. So coming from academia, I often felt too removed from communities I wanted to work with. In fact, like I didn't even know like a path like this existed, like in my undergrad or even when I was in high school. So being here now, engaging with high school students, feel like a full circle moment, and I think the opportunity not just to learn but to shape young people uh, understand urban issues. So when I first joined the Circular Cities workshop, I was kind of curious about what it really mean to bring youth into planning conversation. And over the past year, I've had like the chance to contribute ideas, collaborate with this incredible group of students from Binghamton and in Kurdawai. And I come to realize how powerful youth engagement really is. It's not really just about hearing young voices, but it's about like shifting the structure of how planning is done. So I'm reminded of this article we read for the Circular Cities class about including youth in the ladder of citizen participation, written by Botchway. And in that, they argue like they want to go beyond tokenism. And this is something that we have done with our work with Binghamton High School. So in this article, they talk about, how uh, they want to move towards consent advocacy and incorporation. And these are like the steps that define youth, not as future citizens, but as current and co-creators, and which is kind of like resonates with the way we address our high school participants as co-researchers. And this is like something, this insight has stayed with me, and So when we support young people, not just to participate, but to shape planning from within. So we are just building more just and more democratic future. And I've seen this happen in our workshops, and students bringing like fresh perspectives, challenging assumptions, and imagining futures we can, build together. So, and I've been really great to be. I mean, I'm pretty lucky to be part of this, and I felt like as a graduate student, we have a lot to contribute. And although I feel like CR0WD is an undergraduate run organization, I feel like we play a part in like sort of linking our knowledge and pass it down. So yeah, so I've been very happy about being part of this for 1 year. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to acknowledge that Nikhil, August, Daphne, and Jesse, and Chengyu have all continued even after the workshop ended to further CR0WD to plan for the next set of engagements. So we're really continuing to build from the momentum of these first couple of years. And our plan for year 3, this will be offered again as a workshop for 4 credits for both undergraduate and graduate students at Cornell. Elements of this, we'd like to have a deeper introduction to Binghamton City Council preservation, planning, and reuse leaders early in the workshop. We're thinking about working towards adoption or drafting of a circularity and reuse resolution in Binghamton. We also know that the Binghamton Comprehensive Plan is up for reconsideration. And so thinking about circularity and reuse in those processes can help high school students learn about planning as well as circular economy and think about how it in context. And then we're working on how to incorporate more analytical tools like CARE tool and perhaps Tally for Revit. So again, thinking about the analytical and participatory aspects of circularity and planning and design. So I want to say thank you so much for all of you who are here to listen and those who have presented so far. If you're a high school student from Binghamton, if you're a student interested in taking circular cities and research to action, if you're an interested community leader, policymaker, or partnering organization, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact me or August. We'll be continuing to plan for the workshop and recruit the next set of really fantastic engaged high school students. So I'd like to end there and open it up for questions. Oh, and I see the audio was a little bit choppy. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that I didn't hear that. Yeah, Sophie.
Can I ask a question just to get us started? Or can I also say thank you? That was so interesting. I've heard little snippets before. And if you guys have space and I could come join you in one of your field trips in the fall, it just seems so inspiring. I'm so interested in the combination of youth and crowd, circularity and youth. And I haven't heard that put together before. What for you? So we heard from students, but Jenny, for you, like what comes together when you do that? I can imagine all sorts of things, but I'd love to hear a little bit of your inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting how this came out of, I mean, it was really inspired, I think, in Promise and Pitfalls of Contemporary Planning. I was sharing the work that we were doing in Crowd, and it just, I think it galvanizes a lot of rethinking about how cities can work. In addition to really drilling down into what comprises a city. So I think from my perspective, it's really exciting to have the combination of thinking about the materiality of buildings and places, and then having youth imagination really explore what can change. And I want to open that up to others too. And then I wonder also if I can put Andrew on the spot, since you haven't had a chance to say anything, but you were really important to, especially that first year. Yeah. Can you add anything to that?
Yeah. First of all, yeah, it's fantastic to see, like, of course, like how CR0WD continues and is like changing, and also hearing August then talk about this project that I helped work on. Really fun, really exciting to see that continue. I know that like through the process of doing it, I was really interested and really focused on that question of like, what does it mean for like youth, the next generation, to kind of be focusing on circularity? Because a lot of the times it feels like we're kind of like stuck in the motion of how, like, we're stuck in the machine of how it's already going. But as soon as we can start to get the next generation to kind of start to consider what could change, how to kind of look at our built environment differently, that's how you start to like enact that, how you get kind of like the citizens to actually engage with that. I'm not saying it's a lost cause at all, but it's just really more heartening when you can start to think about that and consider that earlier on, I think, because that's when not as many things are really nailed down or certain. There's that opportunity to really consider how things could be different and how you could start to work on that yourself, which is how I really hope the project kind of came across, and how it can kind of be built on and how people can think about it.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and it's been so complicated too. That's the other thing I want to convey about this project. I mean, it's literally all of us with varying levels of expertise, different interests, different backgrounds, coming together and trying to learn about circularity and circular economy, which is a moving target, right? It's research is, we're figuring these out as we go, and then we're talking about actual properties, and there's complexity there. And then, I mean, we're coming from another community and trying to work deeply with Binghamton High School students and students from Vestal High School. And we're learning a lot about the community that is not necessarily always about circularity, but we heard about housing and tensions in the neighborhood. And yeah, it's very fascinating, but there's a lot to learn. So I feel like that there's much more that we can do in the third year.
Jenny, there's a question on the chat. Shall I read it out?
Yeah, so I see a question. Does the city of Binghamton currently have a sustainability deconstruction department? It does not currently have a deconstruction program, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if there's anyone from the city of Binghamton who'd like to share anything, any other thoughts about the state of sustainability in Binghamton.
Nate Hotchkiss, who is the council member, just left actually.
Oh.
So
Perfect timing.
Something that I just became aware of was that Broome County has what they call as an eco center. Broome County is the county that Binghamton is located in, and it's a location at the landfill where you can actually drop off, pick up building materials that are usable again, that are reusable. So that's just like a program that they have that starts to lean in that direction that I think could be the foundation for more to happen.
Yeah, one of our MRP students, graduates, did her exit project, and one of the case studies was the Broome County Center. And yeah, she found some limitations, definitely areas to build on in that program. Other questions? And yeah, I don't want to put other people on the spot, but Joe, thanks so much for joining us.
I just wanted to say thank you all for doing this, and it is so compelling and really energizing. And so, you know, the materials are very clearly presented, and you know, the case is made well. And I was especially, you know, thinking about that comment, and one of the students in the video said, you know, about the beauty of the city and sort of that inherent beauty of decay, and recognizing that. So it seems we have this very compelling partnership and pipeline that you formed, and I'm wondering how it's being received in city government. I mean, these are our constituents after all, and the message is so clear. So I'm curious what the plans are, what the students are planning, and how they feel empowered, and then also what you're thinking could be done with this message next, to kind of to operate at different levels of power, and to communicate to decision makers.
And I can answer that partially. I mean, I hope that I think we've just scratched the surface, and that there's a lot more that we need to do in terms of directly engaging with the Binghamton City Council, with organizations in Binghamton. I mean, I think from a community development perspective, it still feels really early in the project, honestly. So I feel like there's more to learn and more people to reach out to, but if there's sufficient interest, I think moving forward with more research that can help with policy, in inspiring change at the city level. And I think, although that neighborhood scale and building scale, I think, is nice and tangible. Yeah, what do other people think who are participants?
I think that at our current state right now, with just coming off of the second year, I think that because we were able to facilitate some conversations with council member Nate Hotchkiss, who is his district is right in, look, if we had a map, it'd be easier, but right in the downtown center of Binghamton, a lot of where our main kind of research was focused on. We were able to, again, as the presentation kind of showed from there, like have at least one conversation with him, for him also to tell us and the co-researchers what movements the council members are making towards these kind of initiatives. But I also think that, to go off what Jenny was saying, that there's still a lot of work that I think we're going to be mainly focusing our third year into creating and strengthening the connections that we currently have with some of these council members, and hope to increase it not only to Binghamton, but maybe even some surrounding cities such as Johnson City and Union Endicott as well, if we can gain that sort of traction.
Yeah. Initially, we were also hoping to engage with Senator Webb and Assembly Member Anna Kellis, who is working in circularity legislation right now. We can't do everything all at once, I've learned, but yeah.
I'm really interested in this new round that you're going to be doing in the fall. So who in the city, I mean, that's a really interesting shift. Exactly. Sounds to me like the space we're talking about now. So who in the city are you hoping to engage with? Which departments feel like places where a conversation would be possible or interesting?
I mean, in the first year, we started with the historic preservation and planning office. So I think it makes sense to engage them again. I would like, and initially we had hoped to include some reuse and demolition specialists. Actually, we didn't do that the past couple of years. Yeah, I think we're still working on the plan, but early on in the workshop, I think convening and bringing students together to learn more about the landscape of who does what in city governments will help.
Yeah, it sounds exciting because I would imagine there's lots of surprising people that might be, places where you wouldn't obviously look, where you might find loads of traction.
Also, Broome County Economic Development was involved early with Najee, so we haven't continued to engage there, but there's, I think, opportunities to return to that. Yeah, Gretchen.
Yeah, I was curious to hear from August. At the beginning, when you were still a high school student, what about this sparked your interest to initially participate? And then has that initial interest changed as you transitioned? It's still part of the program, but now as a university student, studying planning. So just interested in your interests around this initially and what they are now.
Yeah, I mean, I was a senior in high school when this kind of opportunity was proposed. And initially I kind of had the thought that it was going to be a bit more like construction focused, like really looking at kind of like, again, this deconstruction process and how, to go through that and what kind of benefits can be provided from that. But I think it was shifted sort of into this kind of like realizing that the bigger change is needed through these kind of like policy and community interactions. And so I think that honestly really kind of influenced even my choice of going into like urban planning as a major here at Cornell. I was originally focused in kind of like the design and architectural aspects of everything, but this really kind of like it proposed a narrative and a way of going into kind of like especially coming from a community that's very intertwined and very kind of reactive. I think this really emphasized the points for me of seeing how community-based planning can really, and even youth-based planning can be uplifting and like kind of propelling these initiatives. And so I think that as well as that, this has kind of like informed my kind of being here as now a planning student in some of the classes and as well, and taking some of those kind of like what Nikhil was touching on earlier, the act of having the theory now to be a little bit more, again, only a first year, but some of the theory that I've learned be applied into practical application. And so I think that it's really the practicality of it is what my interest is based within. So.
I just want to add that August is absolutely right. The beginning of that first year, Najee had a vision that had much more of a construction and building trades orientation. And honestly, the reality of the fact that we couldn't have high school students on construction sites. That's some of the rules. And then the interests of high school students who were participating, and then those of us who were contributing to it, planning, architecture. It became more about planning and architecture and sort of advanced design and policy as it went along. I think, yeah, there's still an opportunity, and certainly my colleagues like at Assembly House 150 and here closer to home through the Work Preserve program of Historic Ithaca. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity in both spaces for circularity. I think we need to develop training in design, in building trades, and deconstruction in all different directions and ways. Let's see. And yes, Andrew, you can totally get us all engaged in events through Finger Lakes Reuse. It's great. And I see we're at 2 minutes from 6.
Yeah, do any of the speakers or participants have any last thoughts? Well, thank you all so much, and congratulations on winning the APA award. That's amazing and exciting. And so really look forward to hearing over the next year the work that will continue in Binghamton. So thanks for joining us tonight, and to everyone else as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Good
so
night.
much for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks.
Thank you.